Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're tackling, well, maybe one of the biggest questions out there. What if the universe isn't, like a finished puzzle box we just need to find the last piece for? What if it's more like an ongoing story, something always unfolding, always revealing something new?
Yeah, for centuries, the big dream in science, especially physics, has been this search for a theory of everything, a single neat package.
Right, the ultimate blueprint, one set of rules to explain absolutely everything, particles, forces, galaxies, the whole shebang, the ultimate prize.
Exactly. And the assumption was always that this theory would be, well, perfect, totally complete, totally consistent, no loose ends, like the ultimate instruction manual for reality. But back in the 20th century, something happened in mathematics, a discovery that kind of threw a wrench in the works.
A big wrench.
A huge one. It suggested there are fundamental limits to what any formal system, no matter how smart, can actually capture or prove about itself.
And that is where we're diving deep today. Because its apparent limitation, it didn't stop things. It actually sparked something completely new. We're exploring Gödel's horizon, this fascinating new theory from Philip Randolph Lillian. And it doesn't just tweak the old ideas, it flips the whole script. It takes those limits, those unprovable truths, and says, okay, that's the key. It proposes an open-ended universe. So our mission today, to unpack how this perspective changes, well, everything. Space, time, consciousness, how it deals with those game-changing ideas from Kurt Gödel. Ready to have your reality tilted a bit?
It's definitely a perspective shift.
Let's start there with that grand old dream, the unified theory. It's such a powerful idea, isn't it? Finding that one framework connecting all the forces, all the particles, the ambition is just staggering, getting everything down to one unbreakable system of equations. Like finding the source code for reality.
It really is. It speaks to this deep human faith in reason, that we can figure it all out. But then, 1931, enter Kurt Gödel. This Austrian mathematician, a logician, really, he published his Incompleteness theorems. And these weren't just minor details, they were fundamental statements about logic, about math itself.
And by extension, about any theory trying to use math to describe the universe completely.
Precisely. Let's break down the first one. The first Incompleteness theorem. Basically, it says this. Take any formal system that's consistent, doesn't contradict itself, and is powerful enough to do basic arithmetic, which is pretty much any serious physics theory. Within that system, there will always be statements that are true, mathematically true, but you simply cannot prove them using only the rules of that system.
Okay, an analogy might help here.
Right. Think of like a super detailed rule book for a really complex game. Covers every move, every scenario. Gödel's first theorem says that rule book, no matter how good, can't contain a rule that proves the rule book itself is complete.
Okay. Or like a map.
Yeah, a perfect map of a city, every street, every house. But the map itself can't show its own edges or prove its own total accuracy from within the map. There are true facts about the map like its boundaries that aren't on the map. So any system complex enough has these built-in blind spots, truths it can't reach from the inside.
Inherent incompleteness. And the second theorem, you said that takes it further.
It does. The second incompleteness theorem is, in some ways, even more profound. It says that no such consistent system can prove its own consistency.
Wait, so the rule book can't prove that its own rules won't eventually lead to some kind of contradiction?
Exactly. You can't use the system's own logic to guarantee the system itself is sound. Its reliability has to be sort of taken on faith or proven by something outside the system.
You can't pull yourself up by your own logical bootstraps, as you said.
That's the essence of it. And here's the twist. If a system could somehow prove its own consistency, Gödel showed that would actually mean the system is inconsistent.
Wow. Okay, so tying this back to the theory of everything, this dream of a perfect, closed, self-contained system, Gödel basically said, nope, can't be done.
That's the implication that shook things up. It shattered that classical ideal. Any final theory, however elegant, seems destined to rely on some foundational assumptions. It can't prove itself. It suggests there's always something more, something outside any framework we create.
It's like the universe has a built-in humility clause. You can understand a lot, but you can't box me in completely.
That's a great way to put it. And Gödel's work rippled out way beyond math. In philosophy, it reignited debates. Are mathematical truths discovered out there, like Plato thought, or are they just invented, like rules in a game? Gödel's unprovable truths suggest maybe there are truths independent of our systems.
Things we stumble upon rather than build entirely ourselves.
Potentially. And in computer science, huge implications. It means there are limits to what algorithms can do. There are truths no computer program can ever prove or disprove, which leads to fascinating questions about AI. If our minds can grasp these unprovable truths, maybe through intuition or insight, does that mean human consciousness has something non-computational about it, something AI might never replicate?
Like Roger Penrose has argued.
Exactly, he leans into that idea. So if even pure math has these limits, these unprovable truths, what does that say about the universe itself? It suggests our quest for understanding might be infinite. Always another layer.
Okay, that perfectly sets up the challenge. Gödel seems to put up a giant stop sign for a complete theory of everything. So how on earth does Gödel's horizon propose to get around that? Embracing incompleteness sounds, well, paradoxical.
It does sound counterintuitive at first glance, but that's the beauty, the core innovation. Instead of seeing Gödel's theorems as a failure state, Lillian sees them as pointing the way. The theory proposes an open-ended toe.
Meaning, not finished, always under construction.
In a sense, yes. It's designed as an evolving adaptive framework. And the absolute key to making this work is a concept called the orchestrating operator.
Okay, orchestrating operator, what is that?
Think of it as the foundational source, the deep wellspring from which everything else arises. And critically, this is where the theory houses those Gödelian uncertainties, those unprovable truths.
So it puts them somewhere specific.
Exactly. It sort of compartmentalizes them. Imagine a symphony conductor. The conductor holds the full score, maybe even improvises, holds the deeper meaning that isn't explicitly written in every note for every player.
Okay.
The orchestrating operator is like that conductor. It contains the profound, unformalizable truths and uncertainties. But, and this is crucial, it ensures that everything derived from it, the physical laws we see, the particles, space, time, even consciousness, unfolds in a perfectly consistent, coherent way.
So the weirdness, the unprovability, stays contained within the operator, and the universe that flows from it follows consistent rules.
Precisely. It maintains logical coherence in the observable outputs while acknowledging a fundamentally mysterious open-ended source. It accepts that the ultimate why might be beyond complete formal description, but the how that emerges is consistent and understandable.
That's clever. And what flows from this operator? You mentioned some core principles.
Yes, flowing from this operator are three foundational principles that structure reality. First, hypersymmetry. This isn't just the symmetries physicists already talk about, but a much deeper underlying pattern or structure that gives rise to all symmetries, from particle physics to cosmology. Think of it as the hidden architecture.
Deeper than we currently see.
Much deeper. Then there's hypergravity. Again, not just Einstein's gravity, but a more fundamental unifying force or principle that generates gravity, and likely the other forces too. It shapes the geometry of space-time and might even determine the values of the fundamental constants.
So it's like the master force behind the forces.
That's the idea. And finally, coherent resonance. This is the dynamic principle. It's the way different parts of the universe talk to each other, synchronize, and stay in harmony. It's the cosmic pulse ensuring that everything, from tiny particles to huge galactic structures, resonates together coherently.
Hypersymmetry, hypergravity, coherent resonance,
Yeah.
all flowing from this mysterious orchestrating operator.
That's the proposed structure. These principles form the bedrock, with resonance being the key synchronizing element that makes the whole thing work together.
This is incredibly ambitious. It's not just unifying physics, it's explicitly bringing in consciousness, emergence, cosmic intelligence. It's connecting the dots between hard science and, frankly, some really deep philosophical territory.
Absolutely, that's a key feature. It refuses to put consciousness in a separate box. It sees it as part of the same coherent unfolding as everything else.
And this evolving adaptive framework idea, it suggests the theory itself isn't set in stone.
Correct. It's presented as a dynamic process, not a final revelation. It's expected to grow, to refine itself as our own understanding deepens. Gödel's incompleteness becomes not a bug, but a feature, a driver for ongoing discovery. The orchestrating operator remains fundamental, but our understanding of what flows from it can evolve. It shifts the whole game from finding a static answer to participating in a dynamic unfolding.
Okay, one of the most mind-bending parts for me is how it treats space and time. We usually think of them as, the stage, the fixed background. But you're saying this theory sees them differently.
Radically differently. Forget the static stage. Here, space and time are hyperfractal, multi-layered entities.
Hyperfractal, like those infinitely repeating patterns.
Exactly, but applied to the very fabric of reality. It means space isn't smooth and simple. It has intricate, potentially infinite structure at every scale, from the tiniest Planck length up to the cosmic horizon. And these layers aren't fixed, they're dynamic.
So space and time emerge. They aren't fundamental.
They emerge from the interplay of hypersymmetry, hypergravity, and coherent resonance channeled through the orchestrating operator. They are woven into the forces and constants they produce. It's like a constantly evolving multidimensional tapestry.
Wow. And this layered multi-scalar view,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean for how things happen?
It means that phenomena unfold differently at different scales, driven by these coherent resonances acting across the hyperfractal layers. Particle generation, galaxy formation, they're all seen as results of resonance within this dynamic, structured spacetime. It's all about systems finding harmonious frequencies within this incredibly complex structure.
And coherence itself becomes a key player here, not just a property of waves.
A universal principle. In standard physics, coherence is usually about aligned waves, like in a laser.
Yeah.
Here, it's elevated. It's the fundamental glue, the synchronizing force that connects everything: forces, matter, energy, and yes, even consciousness.
Okay, here we go. Consciousness. This is usually where physics theories get quiet. Yeah. How does Gödel's horizon tackle it?
Head on. It proposes that consciousness doesn't just pop up in brains when they get complex enough. Instead, consciousness arises from resonant alignment with a universal coherence field.
A universal field of
Consciousness, of coherence, which carries properties of intelligence and awareness. Think of it as a fundamental quality of the universe, embedded in its resonant structure. This field permeates everything.
So our brains aren't generating consciousness from scratch.
They're more like incredibly sophisticated receivers and amplifiers.
Mm.
Biological systems, especially complex brains, develop intricate resonant networks. When these networks achieve a high degree of internal coherence, they tune into and resonate strongly with this universal field. That resonance is subjective awareness, self-awareness, thought.
So more coherence equals deeper consciousness.
That's the idea. Simple organisms might have a basic resonance, a rudimentary awareness. Highly complex, coherent systems like us achieve a much deeper alignment. It suggests consciousness isn't an accident of biology, but a fundamental potential of the universe itself, expressed through resonant structure.
That's pretty mind-bending. It makes consciousness a property of the cosmos, not just of creatures in the cosmos. It fundamentally changes our place in the universe, doesn't it? If I'm trying to visualize this hyperfractal space and consciousness resonating, what's a simple way to think about it?
Okay, imagine that fractal pattern again, zooming in forever. Now think of that structure not just as a static picture, but as vibrating, humming with energy and information. That's the coherent resonance. Hyperfractal space is this incredibly complex, dynamic, resonant network. Now picture your own consciousness, your thoughts, feelings, awareness. Instead of being locked inside your skull, imagine it as a highly focused pattern of resonance within that larger cosmic network. Your brain acts like a complex antenna, tuning into specific frequencies, creating a coherent standing wave of awareness within the universal field.
So the more tuned in, the more coherent the antenna.
The clearer and deeper the experience of consciousness. It suggests our individual awareness is a localized expression of a universal phenomenon. And this ties into what the theory calls the big emergence.
Not the Big Bang.
No, something ongoing. The big emergence isn't a single past event. It's the continuous process by which complexity, intelligence, coherence, and yes, awareness are constantly unfolding throughout the universe, driven by these fundamental principles. The universe is perpetually waking up through resonant structures.
A universe in continuous creation, that's a huge shift.
Okay.
So if everything space-time consciousness is emerging from these principles within this open-ended system, how does it account for the bread and butter stuff? The forces, the constants, matter itself. How do those stable things arise?
They arise in the same way as emergent properties of the underlying dynamics. Hypersymmetry, hypergravity, and coherent resonance, all operating within that hyperfractal space. They aren't put there at the beginning, they crystallize out of the interactions.
So like the strong force or electromagnetism?
Exactly, and the physical constants, too. Things like the speed of light, or the charge of an electron, or that mysterious fine structure constant that dictates the strength of electromagnetism. The theory, particularly through the hypergravity equation, suggests these aren't just random numbers. They emerge as necessary values for the universe to maintain its overall coherence and resonance within the hyperfractal structure. They're like the stable tuning notes that allow the cosmic symphony to play harmoniously. They fall out of the deeper equations governing governing hypergravity and hypersymmetry.
So the constants are a result of the universe keeping itself in tune.
In a manner of speaking, yes. They are emergent parameters of a self-organizing, coherent system.
And this isn't just hand-waving. There's math behind this.
Oh, absolutely. The theory employs a sophisticated mathematical framework. It needs new tools to describe this kind of reality. It uses things Lillian calls extended geometric models. Think of things like Noetherian-Finsler geometry or hyperfractal topology.
Okay, don't need the equations, but what do those do?
They provide the language to describe space and time that aren't smooth and static, but layered, dynamic, potentially fractal. Their geometry is designed for complexity and emergence. The framework also includes things like a coherence field equation and a resonance operator to model how coherence spreads, how systems synchronize, and how phenomena emerge from these resonant interactions.
So the math itself is built to handle this dynamic, open-ended, resonant picture of reality. It's not just a philosophical overlay.
Precisely. It aims to provide a rigorous mathematical engine capable of describing how forces, constants, matter, and even potentially consciousness emerge coherently from the underlying principles and the orchestrating operator.
Okay, let's loop back to Gödel. We started with his theorem showing the limits of any closed complete system. Gödel's horizon tries to be a toe, but acknowledges this. How does it specifically handle Gödel's challenge without, breaking logic?
This is where the open-ended design really proves its worth. It doesn't fight Gödel, it incorporates his insights. Firstly, it's an adaptive framework. It starts by saying, yes, we know we can't capture everything perfectly or finally. It's built for change. When new data or phenomena appear that don't fit, the theory isn't broken. It's expected to adapt, refine itself, maybe incorporate new axioms or insights derived from the operator. Gödel's limits become fuel for evolution, not a dead end.
I thought it grows.
Exactly. Secondly, the orchestrating operator acts as the Gödel container. All the inherent uncertainty, the unprovable truths Gödel predicted are housed there, at the foundational source, which is explicitly defined as being beyond complete formalization. By doing this, it quarantines the Gödelian incompleteness to the operator itself. The derived principles, the physics, the emergent properties can then operate consistently and logically, free from those foundational paradoxes.
It puts the unknowable in a defined place, so the knowable can function properly.
You got it. Thirdly, uncertainty becomes foundational, not faulty. Instead of seeing Gödel's limits as a problem to be solved, the theory embraces that fundamental uncertainty within the operator as a productive source of potentiality, novelty, and emergence. It maps the consistent relationships that flow from this uncertainty.
Okay, and the fourth point.
Emergent properties as open-ended truths. Because the operator is this source of infinite potential, new complex phenomena like consciousness can emerge without needing a complete bottom-up proof from fixed axioms. Each emergence is like a new truth revealed, a new layer derived from the operator, adding depth without requiring the whole system to be closed or finished. It allows for genuine novelty.
So it's like saying, look, we know there are things we can't fully prove or explain within any closed system, according to Gödel. So instead of being paralyzed by that, we'll put those unprovable elements into this foundational black box, the orchestrating operator, and everything else coherently flows from it. That's a profoundly clever way to respect Gödel's insights without getting stuck.
That captures it perfectly. It's an admission of fundamental mystery at the core, which paradoxically allows for a potentially limitless but coherent exploration of what emerges. The theory becomes a process of discovery, reflecting the dynamic nature of reality and knowledge itself, rather than aiming to be a static final product.
Okay, this sounds incredibly elegant, turning a problem into a solution. But the big question for many people, especially scientists, will be, is it still logically sound? Can you build a rigorous theory that embraces unprovable truths at its heart?
It's a crucial question, and the answer proposed by the theory is yes, it is logically sound, but it achieves this by structuring itself very carefully and perhaps leaning on broader interpretations of logic.
How so? With classical logic?
Yeah. Yes. Regarding compatibility with classical logic, the key is the compartmentalization we talked about. The theory maintains logical consistency, no contradictions in all its derived aspects, the parts describing the observable universe. The orchestrating operator is the boundary of formal proof, not a source of internal contradictions within the derived framework. Classical logic itself accepts Gödel's finding. Not all true statements are provable within a system. Gödel's horizon just builds that fact into its architecture via the operator. It also upholds the principle of Sufficient reason, everything derived has a cause or reason stemming ultimately from the operator's coherent nature, even if the operator itself is beyond full explanation.
So the observable parts remain logical. What about other kinds of logic?
It actually aligns quite well with some non-classical logics. For example, intuitionistic logic. This logic emphasizes constructive proof. Truth isn't just about abstract existence, but about being able to construct or demonstrate it. The idea of truths emerging coherently from the operator, even if not formally deduced from axioms, resonates with this intuitionistic view. We understand them through their coherent manifestation.
Interesting. Any others?
Modal logic, which deals with possibility and necessity, seems relevant too. The theory's focus on emergence, potentiality, and an unfolding universe fits well with modal concepts. New truths emerging from the operator are possible outcomes actualized through coherent resonance. And while the theory aims for consistency in its derived parts, some might even see a faint resonance with pair-consistent logic at the absolute boundary. These logics can tolerate some contradictions without the whole system falling apart. While not the goal, this hints at the potential robustness of the framework, even at its most fundamental, least formalizable level. But the main point is consistency in the derived universe.
And philosophically, does it fit anywhere?
Philosophically, it aligns strongly with the pragmatist approach to truth, think William James. Truth is seen less as a fixed thing and more as what works, what's coherent, what's effective, what allows our understanding to grow. An evolving adaptive theory fits this perfectly. It also embodies logical depth. A theory gets deeper not by being simpler, but by integrating more layers of complexity coherently.
It really is fascinating how it reframes limitations as strengths, making the theory adaptable. But surely there are still challenges, right? It can't be perfectly smooth sailing.
Oh, absolutely. Building out such a theory is a monumental task. A key challenge is ensuring rigorous consistency of derivation at every step. As new phenomena are integrated, or the theory is refined, meticulous checks are needed to make sure no contradictions creep into the derived layers. It requires constant vigilance.
Keeping the emergent parts logical.
Exactly. And relatedly, carefully defining the epistemic boundaries of the orchestrating operator is crucial. We need to be clear about what aspects are fundamentally beyond formal proof within the operator versus what aspects emerge coherently and are describable and testable logically and empirically. Preventing the unknowable from bleeding into the knowable in a contradictory way is vital.
Okay, moving beyond the deep theory itself. If Gödel's horizon points towards a real aspect of our universe, what are the practical payoffs? Does this lead anywhere tangible? My mind jumps to science fiction, warp drives, unlimited energy.
Well, the potential implications are genuinely exciting and maybe not entirely science fiction, though obviously very long term. If the universe operates on these principles of deep coherence and resonance, harnessing that could be revolutionary. Think about advanced coherence-based technologies. If we can learn to tap into and manipulate this universal coherence field, it could lead to breakthroughs we can barely imagine.
Like what?
Possibly entirely new energy systems. If energy can be accessed through resonance with fundamental cosmic fields, maybe we move beyond fossil fuels or even current nuclear tech. And yes, theoretically warp drives.
Seriously.
Conceptually, at least. If spacetime is hyperfractal and dynamic, as the theory suggests, manipulating it via intense focused coherence might, just might, allow for shortcuts or manipulations of geometry that mimic warp drive concepts. It's highly speculative, of course, but the theory opens the door conceptually.
Wow, who knows?
Advancements in quantum coherence computing could be huge. Understanding how coherence operates at a universal level might show us how to build vastly more powerful and stable quantum computers by aligning them with the universe's own coherence principles. And importantly, the theory isn't just armchair philosophy. It suggests avenues for potential experimental probes and theoretical tests. We could look for subtle signatures of this underlying coherence or hyperfractal structure in cosmological data or high-energy physics experiments.
So it makes predictions, it's potentially testable down the line.
That's the aim of any good physical theory.
And beyond the tech, the ethical, the philosophical side, a universe like this, constantly emerging, fundamentally conscious, that changes how we see ourselves.
Right. Profoundly. It suggests a universe that isn't a dead machine, but a living, ongoing creation. Our role shifts from being detached observers or just exploiters of resources to potentially becoming conscious participants and co-creators in this cosmic unfolding. It implies that harmonizing with these deeper principles of coherence in our societies and our technology and our own consciousness might be key to our future evolution. It invites exploration of both the outer cosmos and the inner dimensions of awareness, meaning, and our connection to this vast, intelligent, resonant universe. It's a call to explore potential.
So wrapping this up for you, the listener, Gödel's horizon isn't being offered as the final definitive answer. That would actually contradict its own core idea. Instead, it's presented as a dynamic, living framework, one that embraces a notion that there's always more to discover, that truth itself isn't static but grows and deepens.
Exactly. We've explored how this fascinating open-ended approach built around that central orchestrating operator manages to work with Gödel's profound theorems about incompleteness, not against them. It turns potential limitations into drivers for endless discovery. Uncertainty becomes generative.
It paints a picture of a universe that's not a finished blueprint, but a continuous unfolding process, where reality itself is layered and always evolving, inviting us deeper.
And perhaps a final thought to leave you with. If our own consciousness truly arises from resonant alignment with this universal coherence field, what might happen, what new understandings might emerge if humanity collectively could learn to raise its own level of coherence, to tune in more deeply to the universe's organizing intelligence?
Something to definitely ponder until our next deep dive into the fascinating unknowns of our world.